Hello everyone and welcome back to the second round of the Tata Steel Chess Tournament 2021. We are continuing with Alexander Donchenko versus Fabiano Caruana. The first game that ended, and it ended very abruptly, as you'll see. And it's always very interesting when these young and upcoming grandmasters face the absolute top tier ones, like we've already seen today in the game Anish Giri versus Aryan Tari. But yeah, without further ado, let's check it out. It's quite the game. So Donchenko with the white pieces opens with d4. We have d5 from Fabi, c4 and c6. Fabi goes for the Slav defense, knight to f3 and now knight to f6 with e3 and bishop to f5. So this is all very, very standard stuff. Knight to c3 and e6. Now the bishop has been developed and now you can close the gates, as we often say. Knight to h4 now, challenging that bishop here. Bishop to e4, not going for g6 right away, but rather forcing white to somewhat weaken his position by playing f3. So f3, bishop back to g6, and now, well, you could go for queen b3, and black will reply, for example, queen to b6. Here we have just bishop to b2, and it's a very rare move, but it's not the first time Fabi encounters it, but we're gonna get back to that. We have bishop to e7, black just continues development, and now we have a trade here. Captures, and queen to c2. We have knight b to d7, and here a queenside castles from Donchenko. And the reason I said that this is not the first time Fabi sees this move is because Fabi already had this position in the candidates tournament this year, well, in 2020 in Yekaterinburg, against none other than Anish Giri, and Giri. The game ended in a draw, but in that game knight to b6 was played by Caruana. But here we have a6, and it is in fact Caruana who switches from the game that was played in the candidates tournament, which is kind of weird. Often when you prepare for someone, it's usually going to be you who will switch it up, but here Caruana actually shows perhaps an improvement upon his game against Giri in Yekaterinburg. So let's see what's happening here. Donchenko continues pushing on the king side. We have g4, and now d captures on c4. Bishop captures, and now b5. Using this capture on c4 to further expand on the queen side. We have bishop back to e2, and now c5, trying to open up the center here. And here what you would probably do if it was a normal game, d captures, knight captures, and then the game continues. However, here Donchenko decided to play in great style, and he decided to start by sacrificing a pawn. So he played the d5, and just for those of you who are wondering, b4 doesn't work here, because after d captures on e6, b captures on c3, you're gonna capture on f7 with check, and after king captures, bishop captures on c3, and it's just a terrible position to play for black. So instead, after d5, Fabi just accepts the pawn sacrifice, not with the pawn, but rather with the knight. Knight captures, we have knight captures, e captures, and now f4. Continuing to push on the king side, and Fabi, of course, now has to decide how to continue. Does he want to form some sort of a defense, or does he want to continue attacking on the queen side? And since he already has quite a pawn storm going on here, he continues pushing. We have b4, and of course Donchenko continues pushing e4, striking in the center. We have d4 by Fabi, not eager to open up the d file since the rook is nicely aligned with the queen here, and now e5. So both players ignoring each other. We have knight to b6. Fabi wants to take care of the c4 square before he pushes this pawn to c4. White will not be able to capture it back twice because there's rook c8, and White's queen and king are on the same file. So e6, just continuing to push forward. No one is interested in what the other guy is doing. So if you capture the pawn here, then queen captures, and g6 becomes an option. So here Fabi says, I don't mind. You can capture on f7. I'm just gonna play queen to d5. So if you're not careful, I can capture this. I can also capture on a2. So you also have to take that into consideration. So here Donchenko captures on f7 with check. Might even use this as a thumbnail, not sure yet. King to f8, and now he just continues pushing on the king side. Here Fabi could have considered capturing, and of course he did with the king and the queen, but it's better not to give white any open lines, as you're the one who wants to attack on the queen side. So another case of using your opponent's pawn as a shield. We have h4, again continuing pushing on the king side, and here just queen captures on a2. If you tried something like trying to defend the pawn. You could also you could always try that, but it's not going to be it's not going to be any better. Black will just continue pushing, and white really doesn't have any time to waste. So here we have, like we said, queen captures on a2, and now queen captures on g6. So white is really close to the black king here, but like we said, this really works as a shield, and white doesn't really have a way of getting through this. It will take a couple of moves, but it's a question of whether he has them. So here, queen to a1 check could be met with king to d2, king to c2, and then you can start running away. So here, Fabi takes away the c2 square from the white king, and now the threat is not right away, but queen to a1 will be a terrible threat if this queen ever leaves the control of the b1 square. So here, if you go queen back to b1 to try and trade queens, Fabi will just go back, start pushing the pawn, and win the game. So instead, we have bishop back to e1 by Donchenko, now creating an escape square for the king if check is delivered. And now Fabi just continues pushing here. We have c4. Even giving up the d4 pawn, Fabi finds a brilliant attacking resource here. We have rook captures on d4, and now knight to a4, threatening queen captures on b2 with a devastating attack. So here, queen to b1 defending, and now again it's a question: why did Fabi trap his own queen here? Why did he allow white to kind of force a queen trade? Well, maybe in fact he didn't. So feel free to pause the video here and try to find this brilliant winning move for Fabi while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on spotting such a move, as it's really not an easy one to find. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, no, it's not that, I'm just joking. It's bishop to a3. So bishop to a3, congratulations to everyone who found it. And now the point is, there really is no good move here for white. Whatever you do is just not gonna work. If you accept the bishop, then just b2 with check is deadly, and there's not much you can do. You have to leave the defense of the queen, and after the king moves, just queen captures on b1, and you've lost the queen. And you don't have this option of bishop to b4 check and recapturing, because the king is in the way. So after this bishop to a3 move, Donchenko captured Fabi's queen, but now pawn captures on a2, and there's no way for the king to prevent queening because the b1 square is covered by the pawn, but Donchenko finds a very resourceful king to c2. Now if Fabi brings a queen into the game, now Donchenko can give up the bishop to b4. This comes with check, and after captures he's just gonna recapture the queen on a1, but Fabi is not to be tricked like that. Fabi instead plays rook to b8, and he waits with this pawn to a1 move, now covering the b4 square and asking, what do you play here? Well, the absolute most disgusting engine-like defense here for white, and even that isn't enough, but I will show it because it's super fun. Bishop to b4 with check. First you give up the bishop, you go bishop to c4, and now, okay, for the moment black cannot queen, but rook captures on b2 with check, king d3, and now white is actually threatening rook to d8, so you have to take care of that. Bishop to e7, and now rook to e1. Again, trying to bait black into going rook to b1 to kind of go for queen promotion, but here Donchenko would actually have a forced checkmate. Check on d8, bishop captures, and rook to e8 is now checkmate. But of course, this is not forced. Fabi will not go for rook to b1 here. Fabi here will just play knight to c5 check, push the king away, and after the king moves, king to c3, now just go back, rook to b8, everything is defended, Fabi is up material, and it's just gonna be a very easy game to play for Fabi. So this is what happens even with the absolute best, most disgusting engine-like defense, but this is not what Donchenko went for. Donchenko instead went for rook to d8 with check. He decided to give up the rook to prevent white from going rook capture, from preventing black from going rook captures on b2. So here Fabi grabs it, and now b captures on a3, grabbing that one, and now again, if you bring a queen into the game, just bishop b4 check, and the rook picks up the queen. So Fabi takes care of that. He pushes c3. And now you don't have bishop to b4 anymore, well, what do you play here? You have to move the bishop somewhere. The rook must cover the a1 square. So here, Donchenko goes bishop to g3, but now Fabi just goes rook to d2 with check. We have king to b3, and here Fabi doesn't want to part with his knight. He played knight to c5, but we're going to show that it's actually very interesting if you allow white to capture the knight, because after captures and captures, you just cut the white king off completely, and that king is never entering the game again. Also, you're threatening rook to b1, and you're going to promote this pawn. So white's only move is rook to a1, but now you have a king that's stuck here for the rest of the game, and you have a rook here that's stuck here for the rest of the game. Not only that, c2 just wins the game on the spot. There's nothing to do. Rook to b1 is coming, and whatever white plays next move, you're going to promote a pawn to a queen. For example, bishop f2, anything, just rook to b1 captures, and c1 queen, and black is of course completely winning. But Fabi did not go for this. Fabi played knight to c5 check, but he was also in this position on move 32 that Alexander Donchenko resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. Once the king moves, or whatever you do, king captures on c3, you're going to capture on e2, and there is no counterplay left. Black is just up a whole rook. He has a passed pawn on a2, and that's just plenty for Fabi to win this game easily. So of course, after knight to c5 check, the game ended, and a great victory for Fabi in round 2. But this is what I meant, that I really enjoyed these tournaments where you don't just have top 10 players like you have in the candidates tournament, because those games are like 9 out of 10 are snooze fest. But here, when you have such up-and-coming grandmasters like Alexander Donchenko, who are not just willing but also eager to just go after the grandmaster, just trying to take him down, then we get beautiful attacking games like these ones, and it's what we most enjoy. So yeah, great game by both of them, and in the end Fabi won, but very creative approach by Alexander Donchenko, so congratulations on that as well. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I would like to thank Adriano Nunes Cavalcante, Mika De Forma, Greg Lemke Rojon, David Kimura, and William Gould for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot, I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing the coverage of the Tata Steel, probably more games from round 2, checking up on your wonderful suggestions, and whatever else happens in the chess world. So thank you all, I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.